I think we might be at a point where we can post to Webflow and have a new article show up. I am going to go through real quick and just show you a small change I made. It's really probably somewhat irrelevant, but it felt like a thing I wanted to do. So I did it. And just to make sure we got everything the same, I decided to take the backslash off of the base URL. And the main reason I did that is just so it's more explicitly understood as you look at things like Webflow get sites, where we create that variable from the base URL. All I did was use the separator capability of concatenate to do the slashes. And that way there's no assumptions on where the slashes are and how the URL is built. Same with the get collections. I went in and on the create variable, you can see I've got the slashes between each one to separate sites and the site ID and the collections. So just keep in mind the separator, even though it's listed after the value, it actually separates the prior value with what you have here. So it's the base URL / sites / site ID. Okay, so that's the one little change I made while I was offline. Let's go ahead and get into the more interesting items, which is adding a post. Okay, so we're going to go, which way are we going to go here? Move this here. We are going to go to our Webflow API reference, and we are going to create a live collection. And that means if we're creating a live connection, we have an example request we're going to work from. So this one has a lot more going on than some of the ones we've done before, but the URL is pretty much the same. We'll need the unique ID for our collections. And if you remember, we have the Xano API or function that allows us to get that information. And then we'll be doing a post as opposed to a get, which I'll show you when we get into Xano. And so we'll be creating a new item within the collection, and we've got live equal true so that it immediately shows up as published. You can also do a new collection item that will go in as a draft, but we're looking to post it right away. We'll do the update to our bearer token like we did before in Xano, and then we have all of these fields which make up the blog post. And I will say that it takes a little bit of time to figure out what these field names should be if you're not referencing here. I'll just leave it at the fact that I have not found a place in Webflow's administrative tool in the screens for the collections where you can see these names like post body. So using the API reference is pretty important. So we're going to go ahead and do our normal Xano approach. I go back. Okay, so we're in the functions. We are going to move my video out of the way, and we are going to add a new function, Webflow add article. We'll call it blog post. Add a new blog post to the Webflow collection. Okay. So at this point, we're just going to add in the external API request. We'll just get in the middle of all of this and paste what we have from the API reference and import it. And then what we'll have to do, as you noticed here, it's got the post instead of the get. What we're going to need to do is reassemble this URL, but I'm going to do it a different way just to show you that not everything has to be done exactly the same way. For the last ones, I created a variable and I used concatenate. For this one, I know that this is an invalid collection name for us because it was just one out of the documentation. So I'm going to replace it with a %s. So that'll seem really cryptic here for a second, but I will show you a new function that you can use with the add filter. And so when we go into add filter, it's called sprintf. It's somewhat of a cryptic name, but it has a long history in programming languages. The C programming language and a lot of others have picked this up, and it's really just allowing you to do variable replacement in a string. So what I need to do is add in the replacement value for that %s. And to do that, I need to know my collection name. See, we're in Get Site. So I'm going over to my other tab, and I'm going to go into my Webflow Get Collections, and run that, and then find the blog posts right there. That's this one. And we're going to take that ID because that is what it's looking for. And I'm getting a little bit of delay on double clicks and stuff on my computer, but all is good. And I am going to paste that in here. And let me show you what this looks like. So what sprintf does is it will look through the string that it's attached to, and anywhere there is a %s or a %d, it will do the appropriate replacement in order that it finds the items here. %s means a string replacement, %d means a numeric replacement. We'll go ahead and do string because that's most of what we're dealing with. So if I had multiple %s's in this, it does the replacement in the order that I have items listed in the sprintf. So no magic to it beyond that. So this means that our URL will automatically do that replacement. Okay, so now we've got all the set fields. If we go back here real quick, you saw that we have a data set up here and all the fields that Webflow will expect to put an article in there. We will leave the values they have. This will be the name of it. The slug is exciting post. Just in case I've tested that before, we'll call it exciting post 2. Because that slug does have to be unique because that is used within Webflow for different page URLs. The archived and the draft are internal values that we can just leave as is. See what else we have here. We may find out author. This author needs to be a valid value. And I am going to show you where to get that information. I think if I go back to Webflow and I go to our authors collection and I pick one of these items and I scroll to the bottom, you'll see that it has the item ID listed here. This is going to be necessary for the author value because we have to reference an actual author that's in our site, not the one from the API reference page that I got this from. That's really just a unique ID to one of the authors. And I probably will need to do the same thing for the main image. This is just a unique ID to an image, and we need to do it to an existing image. Or actually, let's have a little more fun than that. You can either reference an image which really doesn't fit the approach we're taking, or you can get a new image and it will automatically upload it and associate it. So earlier I had found just a free Pixabay picture, so we have no copyright issues. And I am going to paste that in here. And so the API, if you look at the Webflow API documentation, it will tell you that if you put a publicly accessible URL reference to an image in here, it will automatically upload it and create a new unique ID for it and associate that to your blog post. So we're going to give that a shot and see if it works. And then the next thing I need to do is fix my bearer token. Just to keep that fun, we will do the sprintf on this as well. And the nice thing is with this approach on the bearer token, I can now see that I've left that space there as I keep reminding you guys and myself. So we're going to add the argument, Webflow API key. So that's an example of using a variable to do that replacement for this. Okay. I rarely get everything right the first time. I'm going to go back in and say Webflow add post. Okay. Let's see if it likes us. We're going to run and debug on this just to see if we can post something new. Okay, so the telltale moment is, there it is, bad request. So we've got some issues of validation failure. So I know I've got a bad request. It tells me so. Validation failure. Okay. So this is what I'd run into earlier when I was doing some testing. You have to match the schema of the collection you're putting an item in. And I obviously, in just using what was in the API reference, didn't match up to what I had in my site. So I'm going to go back in and remove color. Author, I don't want to remove, or that's interesting. Okay, we're going to remove color. Let's read a little further. Not described in schema. Color, author, post summary, main image. Okay. Here's how we're going to figure out what these really should be, because I made a mistake. I guess for you guys, I'll say I did this. This is the same mistake I made earlier when I was doing some testing. What we're going to do, since I have not found a way in Webflow to know what all the details should be, we're going to leave this function for a second, and we're going to create a new one. Because the best way to know what fields it wants is to actually get the item from the collection and see what's in the JSON. So we're going to do a Webflow get blog post. Retrieve a list of blog posts from Webflow. We'll make that plural, get blog posts. And then we are going to do the same pattern we've done before, which is an external API request. I'm going to go back over to my API reference, and I am going to get all items for a collection. I'm going to copy and paste that into import. And then let's see what this looks like here. We've got collection, so I'll need a unique collection ID. So we'll do our %s. And I'm going to switch over to my other tab. And I'm going to make sure I have this collection ID for the blog posts. And then I'm going to add the sprint F. And we'll paste that here. Okay. So at this point, I also don't want to limit to one. We'll just get all of them because we can. And it's going to be a get. And then I need to change my bearer token. We'll do the %s on that as well, since that seems to be our theme for this one. And then I will get my API key. Okay. So if this one runs correctly, and yes, I am being lazy, and I am not changing my output variable. Okay, so this one is successful, and we have blog information. Okay, so we can see that it has an underscore archived, an underscore draft, a name, and a post body. Let's see what else we have here. And then a slug, and then the hero image, authors, category. All of these updated on, created by, and published on, you can see in the documentation are supplied by the system, and so you will not pass these in. but then we have a post description, and then the collection ID and the item ID, you don't do either. They do those for you. So let's go ahead and make sure we have all of these things correct. I'm going to copy this as JSON so that I have it. And then I am going to go into Sublime, and we are going to get rid of all of the stuff I had here and paste. Okay, so it's like really cryptic and not easy to read, but in Sublime is my favorite text editor of the moment. There is a command that allows you to format the JSON, so it'll make it pretty for me. Okay, so this is what we were looking at in Xano. This is the return from the get items for the blog post collection. And I put it in here so that I can more easily come down here and see what all of my variables are. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete a few things just to make it easier to read. There we go. And so I know that I need archived draft, name, and post body. So I am now going to come back over to my functions, and we are going to go to the add blog post. We're going to come back in here, and we're going to look at our fields and see that we have name, slug, archived, and draft. There's name, there's slug, archived, and draft. And then I want post body and hero image. So I'm going to get rid of color. There's post body. Yeah, so we do have some to change here. This one should be hero image. I believe author is probably plural, authors, as you can see here. So we switch back over, make that authors. Then post body and post summary is post description is what I want instead of post summary. We'll go in here and we're going to change this to post description. Really hope after I make all these changes that I got us on the right path. And then post body is correct. And I had name. Okay, let's see if we get there from here. And run. And bad request. Okay. If we don't get it figured out this time, I'll do my normal and pause us and figure it out to save you some time, but let's take a quick look here. So I'm down to post description, it looks like. What did I do wrong there? Oh, interesting. No way. Let's look at a different one. I wonder if they actually have a typo. If you see that, it's decryption instead of description. So let's give it a try. Seems a little strange that there would be that kind of a bug in Webflow or a typo, but we are going to get rid of the S. And we're going to run it. And we have a bad request. Okay. Dang, it feels like we're so close. The collection structure changed since the last publish. Oh. Collections. Okay. I'm going to pause you guys for a sec so that you don't have to bear with me on all of this, and I'll come back with a solution. Okay, found what my problem was. I'm guessing you guys won't have the same problem. The reason I had the collection had changed was in doing some testing and prepping for this video. I literally did change my blog post collection in Webflow, and I forgot to republish my site, which means it didn't recognize the change had been accepted. And so I'm hoping that's my problem, not yours. As you can see here, I've run it again and I got an okay. I made no changes from during my pause other than republishing my site. And then that's the results that come back. But the real telltale moment is to go over to Webflow. I'm going to refresh my page so that it pulls in the new blog article that I pushed in through, and let's see if it's there. There it is. So if all goes well, we look at this, and you will see that this is all the information I had typed in to our Xano API. The fun part for me is you can literally just put in a public URL for an image, and here's the image. They uploaded it and associated it to our blog post. So at this point, we now have the ability to import a blog or to add a blog to our blog post collection. So if you remember where we're at, go ahead and kind of just back out to the database. We have news articles that we have retrieved using Newscatcher. We have functions we have created to get the articles out of Newscatcher, to get our site ID, get blog posts so we can get a full list of those, which helps us just figure out what's going on, to get our collection so that we know what the ID is for our blog post collection. And now the more fun one is we have an API that will allow us to add blog posts, which just for the fun of it, let's come in here and do it one more time live. I'm going to change the title. This is a pic of Mars. So we'll have a different title so we can tell it's there. You always have to change the slug Mars article because that has to be unique in Webflow. Not archived, not a draft because we're publishing it live. We're going to put it into the same author. We're going to change this to be bold, just to be different. That's going into the post body. And keep in mind for us, we won't have a post body because the Newscatcher API gives us just a summary, but we'll figure that out when we connect that. The post description, Mars is great to see. So everything will be different. I'm going to go ahead and leave the image because, well, let's see here. Maybe let's go with this image. Typically, I'll use, nope, that's not the one we want. I'm trying to be good about copyrights. So if we have that free download, you got to wonder if I can't just find another, there it is. This one's a free download as well. So copy image address. Let's come back over here. And for the hero image, we're going to use that. And then everything else stays the same. So now we should be able to post a new blog post. Kind of like to see it work while I have you guys on the line here. There we go. It works. So now we come over here. I'm going to refresh Webflow so that it picks up what I added behind the scenes. There, this is a pic of Mars. There's the new picture. So you can see how this is going to come together, I hope, with Newscatcher now. We are going to have the ability to attach all this together. I wonder if I have these, I wonder if I can see them in my preview here. Oh, here we go. So the fact that I have not called these feature articles means that they're in the most recent, because this site project that I used as a template does a newest to oldest on the most recent, as you would imagine. And these are our two that we just added. If I were to go into here, and we can set this as well programmatically, and probably will at some point in this journey, but you'll see that, save changes, let's see if it picks this up. Sometimes I get a little ahead of myself. There we go. So just by setting this is featured, we'll be able to have stuff show up as a featured post as well. Okay, I'm just going random now, aren't I? Because I'm kind of excited that this just all came together. Here we go. So yeah, is this featured? If we make this true, and you can see what the name of the tag is here, then it would show up automatically as a featured image, which would mean that we would need to have an is this featured in here. And I don't believe I have that. So we're going to go ahead and let's see what we have here. Yep, we're good. We'll add that in later. I think we're in a good spot. In my head, I'm kind of rambling a little bit, because what we are going to do next will be the more interesting part, I think. We now have the news catcher getting articles. We have the ability to add a post. And so we're going to create a function next time that takes the data from our articles that we have in our database, which is this data, and we're going to translate it to the structure that the add blog post for Webflow needs. So for each of these fields here, we are going to be replacing it with data from our database that we got from Newscatcher, which means at that point, when we run that function, we will automatically load multiple API or multiple blog posts into Webflow. So fun stuff coming next time. Thanks for your time.